You're
yes,
right.
sir.
All right, here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blacklisted News Radio. It's the 28th day of December 2013. My name is Doug Owen, and it's been a while. I feel quite remiss and ashamed that we haven't been able to do a lot more radio over this holiday season. That's okay, because I'm going to make it up to you by bringing on a show favorite or fan favorite of Blacklisted Radio, my good friend, associate editor, and lead writer at blacklistednews.com. He is also a journalist as well as an author, and he's made a documentary video, The Power of the Purse. He's doing some re-recording and some editing to the original version for re-release. His name is Lee Rogers, and most of you that read blacklistednews.com on a semi-daily or weekly basis probably have read a few columns from Lee. Over the past year or so, Lee's been more prolific, writing more and more stuff, and today we're going to be talking about an array of topics, including 2013 and looking forward towards 2014. Lee Rogers, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Doug?
Good. It's been a while. We haven't done a podcast in a few months, and let me tell you, it's pretty crazy, the state of affairs. Some of the things that we've seen this year in 2013 are just over the top. It's almost hard to believe that some of the headlines that you have written are real. Some of the events that have happened this year that I know that you want to specifically talk about have been these mind melts upon the American people, and have just I don't know. I think really pushed the bar for the current police state that we live in today. And the complete lack of any real tangible evidence, something that I know that you harp on, the fact that so many of these earth-shattering events that are obvious false flags have very little proof, and the American people are pretty much taking the official narrative from the mainstream media and the government whole cloth. And so hopefully today we can break down some of those misconceptions and give some people a little bit more perspective on the reality of the day and what we live in here in 2013 moving into 2014. So I know that's a lot to jump into, but why don't we just start with your thoughts on 2013 and the overall I don't know, spectrum of stuff, of crap that has happened.
Well, dude, I mean, there's just so much stuff. The one thing I can say is that pretty much everything that we see is a lie. I mean,
well, not everything we see,
it's gotten worse and worse. It's so ridiculous what's happening. All these major events that we're seeing, they are staged or they're hoaxes or a number of things. But nothing is real. I mean, you look back to Sandy Hook last year. You fast forward up to the Chinese so-called moon landing. I mean, all this stuff, lies, just lies after lies after lies. Now, I mean, I'm not sure what event you want to specifically dive into because there's so many. You got the marathon bombings.
Well, let's talk about Sandy Hook because the new full police report has come out, and really it provides almost no insight. If you are a skeptic, if you think that there may be some inconsistencies in the official narrative, this piece of, I would say propaganda, but just with this, lacking document that is completely blacked out and redacted, it's almost laughable. But people now believe, and this is the narrative, okay, that the full report is out, that we've seen everything, that there's nothing going on, and that we should just look towards more gun control for solutions rather than what has actually happened. in Newtown, Connecticut. So why don't we just tackle that first?
Yeah. Well, sure. Well, just to give everybody kind of a gist as to what took place, they released a bunch of information pertaining to the Sandy Hook police investigation. I mean, it took them a year to release all this stuff, and there's a lot of data. I haven't had the chance to go through all of it. I just had a chance last night to look at some of the photos and a few of the things that they put out. I haven't had the chance to look at the videos yet. But what I found very interesting, just off the top, is that they have a whole thing of photos of the shooter's clothing, right? Now, this guy supposedly committed suicide, right? He shot himself in the head. I forget specifically.
Allegedly?
But, yeah, allegedly he shot himself in the face or something. Now, call me crazy, call me insane, but generally speaking, if you commit suicide with a firearm, there's going to be a lot of blood, right?
Right.
Okay, so
usually,
right, usually, if you shoot yourself in the face or kill yourself with a gun, there's going to be blood. When you look at all these photos, all the clothing, there's no blood on any of the clothing. There's nothing, and they want us to believe that this is the clothing of this guy that went on a shooting rampage and then killed himself with a firearm. It's ridiculous. So that's one thing I noticed, and then the other thing I noticed is that in a lot of these PDF files that they release, all the photos are in the PDF files. There's this other one that shows the inside of the school, right? Well, I looked through the entire PDF of this thing, and I didn't see any blood. There was no evidence that anybody gotten killed. And there's just a bunch of blacked out pages. I mean, there are some PDF files they've released in which the entire thing is just blacked out pages, particularly the autopsy PDF or the PDFs. It's just black pages with numbers. I mean, come on. I mean, give me something. But,
right.
but there's nothing. And I've only looked at a fraction of this stuff. So based upon what I've seen, this looks like it's more of an attempt to misdirect people and to get people to believe the lie. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, absolutely. There's nothing that you are going to glean from this report that we haven't already been, fed from the media. So there is very little to gain from reading it. I did look through this last night.
Did you see anything? You see anything else that I didn't get a chance to look at?
I mean, there might
anything
be
interesting.
No. I mean, there might be something there. There might be a lot of information that I just don't see. But most of the important details that would shed some light on, what happened, maybe the motive, maybe other participants in this act, things that would show inconsistencies in the official narrative are completely blacked out. So it's pretty much pointless. And I don't understand why all of the fanfare if you're going to put out this police report that is completely redacted, other than it's a pitch. And the majority of people that just read blurbs, that just listen to the quick 5-minute headlines on Fox News or whatever radio station they may be listening to as they drive in their car. Oh, well, they believe that all these documents are out there, complete transparency has happened, and that all of the people like ourselves that are somewhat skeptical of what happened because of the obvious use of this event for PR propaganda as a way to push this gun rights coalition that that is being spearheaded by I'm trying to think of her name now, the lady who was shot in Arizona, Gabby Giffords.
Gabby Giffords, allegedly shot in California. Give me
Yeah.
a break. She gets shot in the head and she's still alive.
Well,
really,
it
okay.
happens. It does happen, but she's pretty
I'm
screwed up
skeptical of
looking.
that.
But I don't know. I hate to say this because it's definitely ammunition for those that would like to attack this podcast and what I do. But I think that she does fake not being able to talk. I don't know if she was shot in the head. I mean, she looks pretty messed up, and I think that takes a lot of time and effort to keep some kind of ruse going where that it's all fake and that she's just
she's not in the public eye very often. I mean, they trot her out every now and then, but that's about it.
Well, on a national level, but she's doing a lot of speaking engagements and campaigning. I mean, she's on the move with her astronaut husband, that are,
God, yeah, championing gun control. They're a bunch of clowns. I mean,
remember her husband? He bought himself an AR-15, and he didn't play by the same rules and have to go through the same rigmarole. I forget.
Yeah, he was doing some weird stuff, like going to gun shops, and I forget what he was doing, but he was doing some shady things.
Yeah,
you remember that? It's just weird.
I do.
But
the whole thing is weird, but. Not to negate the point. The point is that this was all being used as an engine to push gun control, and it's a great distraction. It fell into the 6-week cycle of terror events and other FBI high-profile cases that seemed to happen over and over and over again. They're always very timely. They're great. Distractions from what is really happening, whether it's the economy, whether it's other military or geopolitical faux pas that are happening around the world. It's always convenient, and it seems that it's somewhat orchestrated. It seems that there really is something more behind a lot of these events that lead people like ourselves, and I would say most of the listeners, to not trust the government. I mean, I just saw a poll this year, this week, about science. This is how ridiculous it's become. Americans don't believe in science anymore, Lee. They don't.
I don't blame them. I mean, why trust any of these clowns? I mean, seriously. I mean, look. Go back to Sandy Hook. They release all these documents, and I think the reason why they release these documents with, at least from what I've seen so far, no proof that anybody got killed, just based upon what I've seen. I think the reason why they do this is because they know that 1 in maybe 50,000 people are actually going to take the time and look through everything they released. Okay? And I guess I'm one of the 1 in 50,000 that is going to take the time to do this. So that's why they do these things, because they know nobody's going to actually look into this stuff. They're just going to believe whatever Fox News or CNN or CBS tells them. So it's very interesting. So I hope anybody out there that's listening will look at these documents that they've released, the video, the pictures, and see if there's anything tangible that proves that this event of these murdered children actually happened. And from what I've seen so far, based off all the evidence, the thing is a complete hoax. And we had the 911 calls that were released a few weeks ago, and there were numerous questions about that. I mean, that janitor he was an acting janitor. Acting custodian was what he said. This guy, he's never been interviewed by anybody, yet he is like the main character in these 911 calls. Why has this guy not been interviewed by any major broadcast network or newspaper or anything? I mean, this guy's like a ghost. I don't think he's been interviewed at all, even since the 911 calls were released.
Well, if you listen to the inconsistencies in that, he says that he's outside, and I don't have the time to play the clip here, but you can find it. It's readily available. It was big news just a few weeks ago. But he talks about how he's outside, and he's with different coaches and staff. And then he tells the dispatcher that he's talking with, and by the way, I mean, there was just this eerie calm. Everyone is very, very calm. I've been shot in the foot. This one lady remarks, no big deal. It's not a pressing issue. I mean, if I
that was a good one. Yeah, the woman that was shot in the foot, and she sounds like she's on a bunch of drugs or something.
She's Xanaxed.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I'm shot in the foot.
Yeah, but he says that he's in the hallway. Then retracts his well, he doesn't really retract anything. He just tells them that he's now in the corridor in the hallway. And you're like, okay, well, is this guy floating around? You said you mentioned a ghost, and that's really what he is, because he has this ability. While there's a gunman, while there's people being shot, while they're still trying to figure out exactly what's happening, who's armed, who's not armed. I mean, standard operating procedure. We saw this just last week when they had that shooting, another shooting, school shooting in Colorado. Something's going on up there.
That one's interesting because it seems like they've tried to bury that story since the profile of the shooter didn't fit at all with the narrative that they want to project.
He's a socialist.
He was a socialist. Well, we can't have that, can we? We can't have this big news story about an angry socialist that killed some people. And then, of course, another aspect of the story is that.
Uh-oh. Did the NSA get Lee? Lee, you went. I still see him here. Hello, Lee. Internet connection problem.
I'm not necessarily for armed guards.
Hold on, Lee. We got cut off. We got cut off there for a moment. The NSA decided to Mark Klein us.
What?
Yeah, you just kind of faded away there, and Skype said there was an internet connection problem.
Well, what the hell? Well, okay. Well, anyway, let me see if I can regroup and go over my thoughts.
Go back 30 seconds.
Okay, so all right. So the Colorado shooting that just occurred a few weeks ago at that high school.
Right.
So the narrative that they would have had to project on the shooter, it was not something that would benefit what they're trying to do, because he was a socialist, and also the shooting was stopped by somebody who was armed, which is something that the NRA talks about. And like I was saying before, I don't know if this got through or not, I'm not necessarily advocating that you have armed guards at every school in America, but it just goes to show you that if you have people who are armed, good people, good, honest people who are armed, they can stop bad guys. And that's not something that the establishment wants to promote at all.
Right.
So
yeah, people taking their own destiny and their own safety into their own hands.
Oh, yeah, God forbid that people want to do that.
Yeah.
That's just evil.
Well, the government can go and maybe get your personal property back from a criminal. Maybe. Not often does that happen. But they cannot prevent crime. They cannot prevent you from being hurt by somebody that wants to cause you harm, somebody that wants to take your property, somebody that wants to take your life. They just can't. Maybe with a complete surveillance state, you can deter that. But usually the people that would be deterred by being caught or by being videotaped are people that are of sound mind, and the people that would, rough you up for $20 probably are in a pretty bad way and not thinking very sanely. So you're not going to deter those people. So when it comes to, the ability of police officers to protect you, maybe, but it's very rare. And I've had a lot of property stolen and over the years.
Yeah, how often have the police been helpful for you?
I've never had one actually come out to my house and do a report. I had a car that was broken into a few years back, and
they're revenue collection officers. That's all they do. They just extort money from people by giving them tickets for minor traffic infractions and violations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, and some have said as much. Some have said as much, and recently. Recently, maybe a year or so back, I think it was the Oakland Police Department that was basically being forced to reduce their workforce. And the chief of police said, look, we're not going to go and help people out for burglaries or anything that doesn't create or generate revenue for the state. So basically, the citizens are on their own. And I think that that's extortion. I think that is I think that's using terror. Basically a terrorist tactic.
They are terrorists.
To extort money for their workforce out of the people. And when the people don't want to pay, they don't want to pay the money, then they tell you that, look, you're screwed, and the criminals are going to take over, and they're going to, butt rape you. And people, out of fear, end up giving over their cash to these criminals.
Well, yeah, I consider the cops to be a criminal gang. Anytime I see these cruisers running around that says police on, I say, oh, there's a criminal right there. I have absolutely no respect for the police. None whatsoever. Let me tell you a story. I think I already told you this, but for the benefit of the audience, I got harassed by a cop just a few weeks ago for taking a piss in the woods.
Right.
Who cares? I'm in the friggin' woods. It's not like I'm pissing in front of a bunch of children on a playground. Mm-hmm. And so I come out of the woods after taking a piss, and so what's going on? Like it's suspicious. I went into the woods to relieve my bladder.
Right.
And then he starts asking me all these questions.
It's something that's so natural. It's something that is just part of, human nature to question.
Yeah.
That.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I had to go, so I went in the friggin' woods, and then he acts like that he's giving me a break and getting all aggressive with me. I said, dude, relax. I mean, come on. Have you never taken a piss in the woods before?
Yeah.
Really, dude? Oh, you're telling me you've never taken a piss in the woods? Okay, yeah. Buddy. You're a fucking liar.
Yeah. Never been hiking ever in your life. Never had to do anything. Anyway, the guy was an asshole.
Ridiculous. So basically, he said, "Oh, we'll just have to agree or disagree." Yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, what was really interesting is that at that time I was not open carrying. What I do around New Hampshire is that I open carry a lot now, just because I want people to see somebody else who's not some dickhead cop open carrying a firearm, just so they know that hey, you can do this. It's not illegal in New Hampshire, so do it. And but. That would have been a really interesting conversation if I was open carrying at the time.
Well, why don't you tell the listeners about your experience? Where was it? Some fast food chain where you had your open carry, so you're basically carrying a gun on your hip, and you're rocking the mohawk. And there were some students that ended up seeing you, and an inquisitive teacher wanted to get you to explain to the children what was up.
Yeah, so I was at a Burger King, of all places. Yeah, I try to avoid fast food, but sometimes I can't. So I was at a Burger King eating a Whopper with cheese. And
yummy.
Yeah, really yummy. Really good for you, too.
Too delicious to believe, my friend.
Yeah.
Was that Hillary? Yeah, what you doing on this podcast?
Sorry.
But anyway, so I'm just sitting down eating my burger. And all of a sudden, a big school bus comes up, and a bunch of children and a teacher come into the Burger King. And one of the teachers, she's probably like, maybe her 30s or something. I'm maybe late 20s.
Right.
She comes up to me and asks me, "Oh, I noticed that you're carrying a gun. Is there anything that you want me to tell the children about the gun?" Well, like this is some weird thing that there's a guy here carrying a gun, like that's some bizarre concept to this woman, and I guess the children as well because they've been brainwashed in these.
Well, it's okay for the government.
Camps.
Yeah, it's okay for the government and cops to wear guns. It's perfectly normal, and this is how detached we really are if you think about this. Okay, so the heroes, the good guys, use guns. Okay, so. The government uses guns to protect you, and they need guns. And we're not just talking about normal guns or revolvers. They need the most high-tech automatic rifles that you could imagine to keep you safe. But then they tell you in the same breath that you don't need guns to keep you safe, and that you owning a gun makes you less safe. And I just think about that, and I'm like, how insane and detached is that whole idea? That whole premise that you can keep me safe with guns, but I can't keep me safe with guns. That you know how to keep me safe better. And let's be honest, you're not with me 24 hours a day. Now, you need a gun, and if anybody dares slaps you or resists your authority, then they are assaulting you. If I dare protect myself, then I have to maybe bear the burden of proof. If somebody comes into my home and I shoot them, I can easily and more than likely will be arrested. I'll have to go through an interview process. So the burden of proof is always on you as an individual, and that's my big problem with gun control laws. Don't tell me that you need guns to keep me safe, but guns in my hands keep me less safe, because that makes no sense. And anybody that would make that argument is not a very bright person and does not have my best interest at heart. I mean, it's pretty simple. You don't have to, be right wing or to the left or a centrist or really have any political affiliation or belief to understand that really simple idea. Guns make you safe, so obviously guns make me safe. And, I'd love to be in a world where we transcend past needing guns and borders and nation states and the rest of that. But we're here in 2013, moving into 2014, and As long as cops use guns to keep them safe, I will do the same.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, gun control, all these people advocating gun control, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're idiots. They don't know history. They don't understand that if you disarm the people, it's more likely that they're going to be enslaved. All right, that's just an historical fact. And going back to the Middle Ages, the common people didn't have swords, so they couldn't defend themselves against the tyrannies of kings. So, but going back to the story, so I'm at the Burger King, and she asked me, okay, well, what's the deal with this gun? And what do you want me to tell the children? I said, well, I think you should probably teach the children about the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and that not everybody who carries a gun is a bad guy if they're not wearing some government uniform. And
right.
She just, I don't know if she was just coming up to talk to me to find out if I was like a crazy person or something. I don't know. Maybe she thought I was nuts. I mean, I don't know where she get that idea, but but anyway, it was just kind of an odd question, because it shouldn't be weird for somebody to see somebody carrying a gun and get all freaked out about it. Like, just because I have a gun, I'm going to all of a sudden start killing people. And I think that's kind of the mentality that people have. They see somebody who's not in a uniform who has a gun, that person might be dangerous. And that's a bunch of bullshit. I'd say if I see somebody in a uniform carrying a gun, I'm more freaked out about that than I am somebody who's not wearing a uniform on.
But that was going to be my argument, is that they may be right. Is there a bad guy with a gun? Yeah, they usually have a blue uniform, and they have the motive to chase you down and give you a rash of shit because they want money, and that's their job. And the only way that they look productive is to, inconvenience other people. That is their job. They're
a bunch of assholes.
And the only reason that you want to talk to them, you want to stop and listen to these people, is because they'll shoot you in your back as you turn around. So you're kind of obligated, and it's not because necessarily that there's any real overarching natural reason that you should listen to these people. It's because they have a gun. And that's why they have power, or some kind of weapon, and the authority that has given them these special powers to use their weapons against you. Okay, and that's what the king had. Well,
but you know what, Doug? I tell you one thing. Going back earlier this year, you remember the Christopher Dorner situation?
Yeah. I do.
Now, did you see how scared and how freaked out the Los Angeles Police Department was over one guy who was mad and pissed off at them and was seeking to just inflict as much damage as he possibly could on the Los Angeles Police Department?
Well, I think that they were also freaked out because the media was, making.
But they're a bunch of
out.
goddamn pussies.
Right.
I mean, it just shows you what a bunch of cowards these people are. Oh, one guy is mad, and he decides that he wants to seek retribution against you, and you act like a bunch of pussies, shooting unarmed people in cars. I mean, they shot at a bunch of women in a vehicle for no reason.
Right. Yeah.
It just shows the mentality of these people. They act like a bunch of tough guys, but they're really a bunch of friggin' pussies.
Yeah, they burned him alive, unintentionally, according to them. Ostensibly, unintentionally.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they burned him alive.
Yeah.
They said it. They said it. It was.
They're now saying that he committed suicide, that he shot himself in the head with this gun that was on fire. And then, of course, when you look at the guns that the government has shown us, and you saw them, they don't look like they've been in a fire. They're not melted. They're not that they would completely melt, but if you have any they would be, carbon marked. You would see the obvious scars from burning. No, none of that. They look brand new, just like that T-shirt that they had from Sandy Hook that they were showing everybody. Here's the T-shirt from the murderer. Like, wow, when you commit suicide, you would think that there'd be some blood on it. No. We washed it so it wouldn't scare the children, because God forbid they see some blood.
No, I mean, that's why they demolished the Sandy Hook Elementary School, because, well, it was just too much of an emotional strain to have this building standing. So we decided to destroy it, and anybody who was involved in destroying it, well, we're going to have them sign non-disclosure agreements. I mean, what sort of bullshit is that?
Yeah, maybe a national security letter. Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah, the NSA. There's another whole.
Well, you and I know this is to destroy any possible forensic evidence, so anybody in the future could go there and actually do some forensics and ballistics and find out exactly what happened. It's a complete cover-up.
Cover-up. Yeah, that's all it was, cover-up.
Yeah, but people think, well, it's to make all of us feel better. It's to help us out so that we don't feel bad. Yeah, and it's a complete lie when you listen to Rachel Maddow and the mainstream media about those tapes. Oh my God, they're so horrific. They're jaw-dropping. I've heard them, and they're going to blow your mind. And then you listen to the tapes, and it's the complete opposite. It is monotone, drone-sounding, crisis actor-esque people talking. So you've been shot in the foot? Yeah,
I really wish you didn't mention Rachel Maddow, because she has got to be one of the most irritating TV personalities on air today.
I mean,
can we get that queer bull dyke off the air? I mean, does she really represent a large number of the American people? That's one thing that really pisses me off. They try to project this idea that queers are somehow like 10% or 50% of the American population. It's not true. It's a very small percentage. But we have to have all these queers and these homosexuals out there promoting all this bullshit. I'm freaking sick of it. Screw them.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry. That's not politically correct. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree. I think that there are people that are going to resonate towards their own, and that they want that opinion. I think that people that think that the government is overstepping its boundaries, its constitutional mandate that has created this tyranny, a police state, they would gravitate towards our shows, this podcast. So I don't have any problem with Rachel Maddow's look or the fact that she kind of has that.
I do.
Well, I mean, and that's
just
why,
don't personally like her.
Well,
I think she sucks.
Well,
I want her off the air. She's
I do
an irritating person.
I do for a lot of other problems with her commentary. Not her look, not any of the other homosexual things that she pushes. I could care less what people do in their own lives, and
Yeah, I don't care either. I'm just tired of all this stuff being jammed down my throat by the corporate media.
Well, I think there's a lot of people. I do think that the percentage is probably higher than you think, and that more higher than people would like to admit, because many people don't admit. But tomato. Who really cares? It's not that. I think that people just feel offended because she's lying, and that she is a Rhodes Scholar, that she pushes pushes people towards this idea that she is and her kind are speaking truth to power, that they're rebellious, but anything but. And I mean, Cecil Rhodes himself, I mean, he, the king of apartheid. So anybody that is a Rhodes Scholar, I hear the praise of Rhodes Scholars all the time. Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. Rachel Maddow was a Rhodes Scholar. That offends me much more than any of her sexual perversions or persuasions or whatever you may believe. The fact that she, was her education and her doctrine was bankrolled by, diamond mining. And, you go to Africa and you look at, Rhodesia, a country that was named a personification of evil, and that is somehow in this society, put on a high pedestal. That pisses me off far more than her handsome, boyish looks.
Well, it's just another thing that irritates me about her. Okay, I mean, it's bad enough that she spews all this ridiculous propaganda, but that for me just puts it over the top. I'm just tired of seeing all this stuff projected and promoted in the media. I'm sick of it. I mean, people have to stand up and say enough is enough. I was reading this story about how, I guess, Washington, D.C., there's the highest percentage of gay marriages in Washington, D.C. Like, it's turning into the homosexual capital of America.
It always has been, though, isn't it?
It's like something out of the friggin' Hunger Games. Did you see that movie where they have the Capitol? They got all these queers and metrosexual people running around in the Capitol. Well, I mean, it's happening here in real life.
It's always been happening, though. I mean, go back to Greece. Go back to Rome. Go back to the British monarchy, empires of yesteryear.
What happened to Rome? What happened to Rome? It fell apart
Well,
because of all this cultural decadence and all this bullshit.
well, amongst
And
other
we're heading
things,
down
yeah.
the same path. And they act like this is some sort of new trendy thing that's going on. It's been done before, and it's partially led to the ruin of society.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know if
I
you can
think
really.
so. I think
I don't know
it's
if you
a
can prove
general
that, but I mean, I don't. I can't really make an argument against. I think that not to me, it's not the perversion or the sexual desire. I think that you can find it on both sides of the aisle. It's really the overarching motivations and drive that ends up allowing for the society to become decadent and wicked. Maybe the fact that we have politicians that are more interested in trying to have sex with pages or doing crystal meth like some of our fine religious leaders and the like that are complete frauds and that are completely compromised in so many different ways, especially because of their sexual perversion. I think that that's why those people obviously make their way through the power structure, because they are easily controlled. And the people that are in control, look at Barack Obama. A lot of questions about how heterosexual he may be. I mean,
Well, dude, have you seen him throw a baseball?
Yeah, I think he's pretty gay too. But
dude, he throws like a friggin' woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he throws a baseball like a 6-year-old girl.
You might think the same of me though, because you played college ball. So
no, I mean it has nothing to do with playing sports at whatever level. I mean, you either throw a baseball like a guy, or you throw it like a friggin' fairy. And Obama throws it like a fairy. Throws it like a little girl. Well, it was ridiculous. I mean, it's up on. You can find them on YouTube. Him throwing a baseball, and it's.
I guess
ridiculous.
my grander point is that, or if there is one, is that I don't despise these people because of what they do behind closed doors in their own personal lives. Yeah, I might not find it all appealing though, but it's really what happens behind closed doors in the political sphere that affects me and my family. That's what I find to be the most egregious aspect of all of this. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. But when you start making me pay for it, when I suffer because of this, because of the Obamacare, whatever it may be, when I have to pay the price, I have to pay the piper for these agendas, for these political follies, then that really, really offends me. So the rest of it, I understand why people are offended. I'm just not really I'm not a real big Bible thumper. I don't really, I think that there's always been a huge contingent of people, that have sex with the same sex. You see it in, the animal kingdom. And I do believe that we're just animals. The only difference is that we have conscience and that we are conscious.
Well, I think the problem is that I have no problem if somebody wants to do this weird stuff in the privacy of their own home. Fine. I mean, 2 consenting adults, you can do whatever the hell you want. But the problem is that we see a lot of the social engineering that's being projected over the media.
Sure.
And I think that's convincing a lot of people that, oh, well, I might be gay or I might be a homosexual, even though they're not. And I saw this back in the 1990s when all of a sudden, I get into high school, and then all these women, all of a sudden, they think they're bisexual, and they start experimenting by eating. Well, I don't want to get too graphic, but
we get it.
We get the point. It's like,
right.
Well, what the hell? I mean, come on. Maybe you think you're bisexual, but bullshit. Why? Just because you watch some reruns of Ellen and she came out as being gay?
No, I don't think that's why. I mean, come on now. Nobody watches
all this
Ellen
stuff
or
is
Rachel
bullshit.
Maddow and decides, I want to be butchy. I want to try this out. I think that people, especially
Well,
kids,
this happened out of the blue. There was a big pushback in the 1990s for this sort of thing.
Oh, well,
But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't even get in a huge discussion about homosexuality and stuff like that.
Well, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, we just, I mean, here's the deal. People that are homosexual you're not going to sway them because that's what they are. So the point, I think that people take away from it is that, yeah, the people that aren't, that might find it to be foreign to them, might agree with you and I and say, wow, that's kind of weird. Why would you want to do that? That's gross. Yeah, you're going to win those people over. But if you're homosexual or, part of the LGBT community, let's not forget the Q, then you're not going to be swayed by Lee Rogers or Doug Owens' personal opinions. But I do understand where you're going with this and saying that this is part of the moral decay, the grand, I think, plan to kind of disassociate people from real issues and then getting them caught up in, oh, should I be gay? I mean, when you're thinking about that all day long, or am I a heterosexual? You're obviously not thinking about, geopolitics or things that affect you. You're probably out to lunch and worried about a lot of other things. And so they do inject those ideas so people, can chew on that for a while. But, I mean,
well, sure. Yeah, a lot of it's to destroy the family. I think that's part of what, or at least part of why they're promoting all this stuff. Because if you have two people who are the same sex, they're not going to reproduce. So I think it has to do with population reduction, and it has to do with destroying the family. I think those are other aspects of this as well.
Yeah, and you look at the adverse, you go to Russia, where they have a big problem with the population. They want the population to expand because they just haven't recovered after World War II, for lack of a better analysis. I mean, we could go into, the demographics and what happened after World War II, but needless to say, they have the Nashi. They have this push for kids to have sex and to procreate for Mother Russia, and you can look it up.
Yeah,
just look up Nashi.
That's healthy. That's healthy.
Yeah,
that's
but
a
no,
healthy
it's not.
initiative
Hold on.
by Vladimir Putin.
What they have is crazy sex camps where teens are encouraged to procreate, and it's just kind of it's. I don't know. I would say it's actually more creepy, where you have the government like, yeah, kids, let's have sex. Let's have.
Well, it's better than the alternative. What's being promoted here, which is a bunch of weird shit.
Either way, I don't think the government should be involved. And so you can look at both sides of that. And on both sides, I'm kind of appalled. I really wouldn't want my kids being propagandized by the Russian state to have, casual sex with others, to procreate, not for themselves, but for the state. I don't, obviously, I think that, you and I look at our own area and we look at our own government that we pay taxes to with a more critical eye than maybe something that's across the world and what's going on over there. But Doug, I would be just as equally offended.
Yeah,
and I think that the grander point that we're really touching here is that it's not the place of the government or the corporate controlled government media to make these kind of decisions and to create this kind of atmosphere for population reduction, population expansion. I mean, these are things that should be completely not controlled by the government. Not that I think that, well, the free market can do. I mean, these are things that should be personal decisions.
Well, all I'm trying to say is that the program being promoted in Russia is the antithesis of what you're seeing in Europe, what you're seeing here in the United States. And I think it's a healthier policy than what we're seeing in a lot of these Western countries. Because population reduction, all this stuff, I really believe this is part of a program in order to destroy Western European culture. And I think a lot of it is coming from the usual suspects, namely a lot of the Zionist and Jewish interests that are seeking retribution against Western European culture for the hundreds of years that they feel as if they were oppressed by those societies. So now they're trying to destroy them. I mean, and also the hordes of illegal aliens that are being sent in. That's another part of the program. So they're trying to destroy these cultures so they can be more easily controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that there might be something to that. I think that we saw in 2013 the power of AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. Though they got plenty of money, more triple what they thought they were going to get. We're starting to see a lot of that power shift. Henry Kissinger said that Israel would not exist within 10 years. So I'm really interested. Now we have 9 more to go to see how this shift happens. But I think that you are right in the fact that you do have a lot of these hidden hands and a lot of these agendas that are being pushed forward by, Bill and Melinda Gates. Perfect example. And we've got some stories I do want to get into here. We only have a few more minutes in the show, and I didn't really want to get into a huge grand debate about government policy because I believe, and I think that you would agree with me, that government policy should not be something that happens in the bedroom. If you are a person that believes in independent and individual freedom, autonomy from the state, then the idea that Vladimir Putin or Dmitry Medvedev or Barack Obama or Henry Kissinger, Zbigniew Brzezinski, or any other creepy person, Western, non-Western actor, state actor, is in your bedroom, just it's beyond the pale, and it shows you how our sex lives are being politicized. Whether you like the policy or you think that it's better, the antithesis to the Western by the Russian. I
don't think Vladimir Putin is forcing people to procreate. It's just an encouragement,
right?
That hey, we're
and I
have
don't
a problem here.
And I don't think Rachel Maddow's forcing your teenage daughter to be a lesbian, but I think that she may kind of promote that, or at least women.
Just
that
her presence on TV, I think, is making people gay. How about that?
I disagree, Lee Rogers. I think that is ridiculous.
I'm of course joking.
Oh, I know.
Joking, but
it's a great conversation because I think that a lot of people, with what's happened with the Phil Robertson Duck Dynasty huge political move or PR campaign. But people are
Duck Dynasty thing. Okay, so they have this whole thing where they say, well, we're going to suspend Phil Robertson, and then all of a sudden, Duck Dynasty gear it goes to the roof as far as sales go.
Hey,
and then a
marketing
few weeks later,
genius.
Yeah, then a few weeks later, they say, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going to let Phil back on the show. I mean, come on. I mean, this was a perfectly
people are
planned
so excited about this, man.
PR
It's become
campaign.
This
is a staged campaign to sell more Duck Dynasty gear, and also I think it was used as a distraction away from some other things that are more important. Like you had the Target news with 40 million something credit cards stolen,
pins as well. Yeah.
I mean, well, where's all the multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity programs? I mean, how come that didn't stop this? I mean, what a bunch of bullshit that is, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did actually kind of touch on a few topics that I wanted to get into besides Phil Robertson. I mean, I just think that he's a marketing genius, that A&E did the best, and that they gamed the conservative Christian right for they were already at their 14 minutes of their 15 minutes of fame, and they pushed it into the holiday season rather than having a huge economic retraction because people were afraid to shop because of that Target incident. People were buying Duck Dynasty gear, afraid that it was going away in droves, and so there was a lot of memes that were made. There was a lot of people that were.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Doug. But what I find really interesting is the fact that right after Christmas, A&E decides to welcome Phil back to the show. So they want a bunch of people to buy all this Duck Dynasty gear for Christmas.
They gotta get rid of all of that Duck Dynasty stuff and sell all of the new stuff. Okay, 2013's over. Now the 2014 Duck Dynasty merchandise is going to be on sale. Come on. It's only the silly people in the quasi alternative media that get so riled up, and that's why I just when people start talking about, well, the gays are taking over America, I'm like, yeah, and Phil Robertson, we need a petition. The government, Obama's got a petition. What about it? Right? I'm like, yeah, well, we're all getting excited about things that are kind of side issues. I mean, here's one, Lee. Okay, Atlanta is battling public urination. Okay, now have you heard about this?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, there's a lot of people just like there's a lot of people just like you, Lee, that believe that they can just urinate anywhere in society, anywhere. Okay, not in the finite places that are sectioned.
I mean, just the woods. I mean, there's nothing wrong with pissing in the woods. Animals piss out in the woods all day.
Yeah, we don't find deer or raccoons or anybody else for peeing in the woods.
Yeah, we don't put them in jail for pissing in the woods. So what's wrong if humans do it?
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of creepy people hanging out, or creepy raccoons hanging out naked in the woods peeing on things. So, I mean,
okay, all right, I get the point. So what's up with
they decided to put pee detectors in the subways in Atlanta, and I didn't even really
waste of money.
Yeah, there's a public transit authority, and they've been putting in. Now, guess how much a pee detector, a urine detector, costs?
Well, I'm sure it's thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars. 10,000 actually, that it costs. So the transit authority there is going to be. I don't know how many of these detectors they're going to put in, or if there's going to be a public outcry because of just the ridiculousness of it. Because is this such a problem that you're going to have detectors? And better yet, why just put these devices in that are probably not going to work that well, that are only going to create false, alarms, and I'm sure if there's any, water, moisture. I mean, you just look at the logistics of it. It's kind of stupid.
Well, what if somebody decides they want to take a shit? They have shit detectors too?
They might. That's the next thing. And those are going to be $20,000.
Because honestly, I mean, I think this is just a complete waste of money. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars because somebody might be pissing somewhere.
Yeah.
Total waste of money. Who was the retard who actually thought this was a good idea?
Government, police.
No, right. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you have an overabundance of retards that work.
The
in
news
government,
censor alert police the moment someone begins relieving himself or herself. Arrest can be made, quote unquote. This is for real. They actually put this in the article midstream. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that retarded is one of these words that are trying to outlaw, and they think that if you
that's
look
why
at the
I
actual,
say it.
I know.
Right, that's why I say it as often as possible because it pisses people off.
Yeah, that's your thing. I know that you like to. You're just like many of these other people that like to get people going and getting them all riled up. So I know that you.
It's more than that. It's the fact that they're trying to restrict certain forms of language, and that really bothers me because they're trying to do this so they limit free speech. They want people to feel uncomfortable for saying certain words, and I think that's ridiculous.
Well, this is the problem. People believe that you can ban books. This year, 2013, was a huge year for banning books. Governments around the world have banned more and more books, libraries, because the words offend them, or maybe the ideas or the message that is therein has become dangerous, that it questions or makes people question the current status quo, and people find that to be dangerous. Oh my God, you could get an alternative opinion of what we're saying here. Oh. But the idea that you ban these words, and here's two examples. Retarded is a term that means to dampen. So when you say somebody's retarded, you mean that they're dampened. Maybe they're just slower. Maybe they're not quite up on what's going on. Maybe they're just ignorant. So there's a lot of different terms that you could use. But retarded, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has Down syndrome, though maybe different groups attach themselves to words. Just like gay. I mean, gay actually used to mean happy, and then at some point, people attached themselves, their cause, to this term. The Flintstones. Remember, we love gay all the time. It wasn't a big deal, and back in the 50s, people named their kids Dick, and people didn't laugh. Oh my God, he said Dick. Oh. We weren't so over the top about little things like that. We actually, I think, we're more mature in a lot of the offensiveness, and the the outlawing of words also highlights the immaturity that we have in this society. Somebody said pussy. Oh, he said pussy willow. So now people are like, oh, we got to change all these words because people have been using them incorrectly, which, I mean, just really speaks to the level of insanity that is upon us, where you believe that if you outlaw a word, if you outlaw a book, if you outlaw an idea, that it will not enter the public context or in the public thoughts that you're going to eliminate rebellious activity or activity that is not in line with the state or the overall doctrine. I mean, you have to be pretty crazy to believe that has ever worked throughout history, that has ever dampened or retarded any kind of political movement. It has not. It is only, put more fuel in the fire for these people that project whatever it is that you may hate, whatever idea it is that you find offensive. And
the real big problem that we have here is the fact that you have a lot of people that just want to micromanage every aspect of people's lives, and they want to micromanage people's speech. And it's gotten to the point where it's become so crazy that, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, how can you micromanage everything to this level? You just can't. And I've worked at different organizations, and the most efficient organizations that I've worked for don't micromanage. But when you look at the government, all they want to do is micromanage every aspect of everything that they can. Mm-hmm. And it's no wonder why the government is such a mess and why you have all these scandals and things going on.
Right.
It's wholesale micromanagement. And it hasn't worked and never will work. And these idiots can't seem to figure it out, although
that's exactly why I don't care about it. That's why some people get so appalled and so offended. Oh, my God. Whoa. And it's like, well, it's never worked before. Go ahead, try it. Try it, see if it works for you. Try to ban words. Try to redefine the vocabulary, the lexicon that we use. See if that gives you any more power. Obviously, it won't. History has proved that over and over again, though I do find it very irritating, and I think that we have to tell people, look, this is the message that they're trying to convey, and in that way we can kind of see through it and break it down. But at the same time, I know it's not going to work, so I'm not that bent out of shape. People are like, oh, why aren't you that upset about it? Because Hitler banning books and burning books didn't change what people thought of him. Countless examples of people throughout history, Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky, all of these people burned books and tried to outlaw history and make the people forget it. They've tried to reindoctrinate them with movies. That was a big thing that Stalin loved to do. I mean, you go through all of the different people in history that have tried it, and it's always ended up undoing their original intent. So when I see people in government doing it, I'm like, well, these guys aren't that bright. They're just following the failed footsteps of so many others. Not that ultimately that won't, be something that we pay the price for. Eventually communism failed, but during the 20th century, I mean, you can't deny the amount of people that died, the hundreds of, almost 100 million people that died under those systems, maybe even a higher death toll in the 20th century due to socialism, to communism, to cultural Marxism, whatever flavor it may be. That is what happens when you have that central authority dictating, what is moral, what is good, what is not good, and trying to control that message. So a lot of people suffer under those systems, and I think that what we have today, you see people losing their jobs, they become unemployable, they become piranhas, basically, for a pariah, rather. I was thinking of that piranha story where those people in Argentina were eaten by piranhas. How often does that happen? It kind of derailed me there. But, my overall point would be that these systems and the controlling of words, it hasn't worked throughout history. And that's why they try their best to shut people up and get people, on board. And it's just not working, which is a good thing, Lee, isn't it?
No, it doesn't work. It never has. I 100% agree with that. But hey, I want to talk about the Chinese alleged moon landing.
Yeah, let's talk about that in a few other spots here while we have a few more minutes.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things I've been looking at over the past few weeks was this event that the Chinese were promoting, claiming that they landed this spacecraft on the moon. And the reason why I was very interested in this is because I remember several years ago, I think this was back in 2008, the Chinese said that they had their first spacewalk. And of course, they had this wonderful video of this astronaut with a Chinese flag and everything. And what a great moment it was for the Chinese. This is how it was projected. But when you actually look at the footage of the first spacewalk, you can actually see bubbles. Okay, Now correct me if I'm wrong, but bubbles should not be in space. So it looked as if they filmed this whole thing in a water tank here on Earth and then put it out saying, hey, this is us in space. This is our first spacewalk. And to make matters even worse is that they screwed up or somebody leaked the story beforehand, but they actually released the astronauts' quotes and all these things about what a successful spacewalk it was before the rocket even launched. So the whole Chinese spacewalk was fake, at least in my view, based upon the evidence that we were given. There's some other aspects to it as well, but those are the major points. So fast forward to a few weeks ago, you have this so-called moon landing. And I looked at the video footage of this, the few clips that they allowed us to see. And I mean, most of it, they focus in on this computer animation of the craft supposedly landing on the moon. And the footage that we did see of its approach, it shows nothing. It looks just about as good as the Apollo moon landing video, if not worse. And this is 40 plus years after the fact. And there's plenty of questions about the Apollo moon landings, which I think were completely faked. So there wasn't any footage that really showed much of anything. And then they go on to show the footage of the rover being deployed from the craft. And you take a look at the footage, and the horizon is curved, which I thought was pretty odd, because if they landed in an area where there's going to be flat ground, you wouldn't see this curved horizon. That just seemed kind of odd.
No.
It looked like something that...
I don't care if you're in the sky looking down on planet Earth, or if from the sky a mile above on the moon. You're not going to see a curved horizon.
Right. It's going to be flat.
No, you would have to be 30, 40, 50 miles. I mean, you would have to be outside of the atmosphere to see anything like that. You'd have to be up, at satellite height.
Right. So it looks like it's being shot in a studio. And then they roll out the rover and everybody claps.
Now, this is going to be more offensive than using the word retard. I just want to put that out there, that this seems to really, really, really make people mad. When you
absolutely
question what's going on with NASA or with the Chinese, space moonwalk with their... What was the name of it? It was a famous sexual apparatus that they named the rover after.
Yeah, so this is another aspect I was going to get to. So the name of the rover is called the Jade Rabbit, and apparently that shares the same name of this well-known battery-operated...
yes.
A battery-operated sex device, let's just say.
It's an apparatus.
Right, a battery-operated sex apparatus. Let's just leave it at that.
So
that's another question. I mean, why would they name this thing after that? But there's some other things as well. They released one image, okay, of the lunar surface, like this panoramic shot. Mm-hmm. And what was really strange about it is that they showed it only on a projector screen that was shot with a video camera. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it, there's no image that I saw of the Earth, and there's no image of the sun. Now, how is that possible?
Well, maybe, at some point you could have, maybe being out of the range, midday, where you're in between, maybe. I don't know about that, but I thought it was pretty funny that there was also messaging from the Chinese that they had a nuclear explosion over Europe in their banner display for the rover. Did you see that? You're like, oh, well,
yeah, that was kind of weird too. There's a lot of strange things to this whole thing.
And I would say that Jim in New York says sexual apparatus. There you go. That's that's what this is.
That's one way to describe it.
But it's a little joke, and I think that's what is so telling is that they put these little jokes in there, and whoever made the panorama decided to put a nuclear explosion over Europe. Okay, maybe it was just some jokester, the guy that was in charge, like, death to the West. Okay, maybe,
right.
But you start putting all of these things together, you've got a lot of explaining to do. And if you dare start just asking these questions and come at it from a skeptic perspective or from objective perspective, then people will just immediately start attacking. I got probably, I think, 5 or 6 tweets directly from people that look like they're operators. And by this, I mean they have a few hundred followers, but they're all attached to some think tank or some other policy group that immediately, and I'm talking about immediately, jump onto the comment forums, and they jump onto Twitter and start tweeting me directly at BLN Radio. And so that throws up red flags, because why are people so vested in this? Why are you so attached to it? Now, the same people that will think, well, maybe the government did have some involvement in the orchestration of the events that led to 9/11. Maybe, just maybe. But when it comes to, the Chinese, which we don't trust at all, nor should we. I mean, they make most of their money off of counterfeiting. So if anything, I mean, these guys are counterfeiters first. And a lot of the Chinese listeners that never donate to the show and probably don't listen will be offended by this. But that's kind of, their philosophy. They make most of their money from counterfeiting. That's one of the biggest cash crops for the Chinese government. And so we're going to trust these people. But when it comes to space exploration, any country, whether it's India, Russia, China, everybody's all in. And it's like, it seems like it's an untouchable topic. Even for the Chinese, because you'd think the government, the U.S. military, would be, more than happy to expose the fact. But they know that this also creates budgets for themselves. Oh, yeah, well, as long as everybody thinks the Chinese have new capabilities, we're going to be able to get more trillions of dollars into our black budget secret hole of cash.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, I mean, there's a lot of reasons not to trust the Chinese government. I mean, they are an authoritarian regime. There's no doubt about that. Although they are, I think some of their economic policies are actually putting themselves in a good position. And I think that's part of why they're doing this. But going back to the whole moon landing thing, there's a few other questions that I have about this. This moon rover has supposedly been on the moon for a couple of weeks now. And they have released almost nothing. I looked for news stories about, okay, well, what is this thing doing? I mean, surely by now they would have had dozens upon dozens, if not hundreds upon hundreds of photos. They'd have hours upon hours of video clips from the lunar surface. They've released absolutely nothing. Nothing. And there's been no reports on their scientific findings. All the reports that I've seen have talked about how China's moon landing puts them in a new political position. Yeah. And they have all these people asking questions. Well, what does this mean for Chinese and U.S. relations? And what does the technological advancements of the Chinese mean for everybody else? And it's all a bunch of bullshit. I mean, if this was a real mission to the moon and China wanted to project itself as being a superior technological power, or at least a power to be reckoned with, surely they would be releasing as much information as possible showing what a great job they did of putting this thing on the moon. And yet there's no high-definition images, no high-definition video, there's nothing. We just get this crummy video of this Jade Rabbit rover supposedly being rolled out onto the moon in what looks to be something that was shot here in a studio here on Earth. I mean, it looked like that James Bond film, Diamonds Are Forever, where they had that moon hoax scene.
Right.
I mean, it was. I mean, even the one in that movie actually looked better than what the Chinese put together, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. But more compelling, more realistic. and people buy it. They completely, actually, my mom got my father this book that had tons of Hubble space images, beautiful pictures, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't even know if any of these are real. I think that there are, the capabilities to get into space. And you and I may disagree on this, but I believe that they've been there. I believe the technology, what they've used these black budgets to obtain, everything from energy drivers, mass drivers, rail guns, you name it. I believe it's out there already. I do believe that they are going to space, and I would only imagine through the secrecy of government that would extend into these space programs and space wars. So, I have no doubt in my mind that the government and maybe even China are able and capable of putting weapons in space. How far they go out and whether they can pass the Van Allen belts and all of that stuff is up for discussion. I haven't seen a lot of proof, but honestly, I haven't done the necessary research. But what we see, I think, whole cloth is a fabrication. What they show the American people, all the way back to the original, lunar landings, all of that stuff. Basically dropping in on another planet, using an umbrella to transmit images and video that's much more high def than we can get today, and then have the energy, the fuel, and the technological ability to blast off of that planet and make it back into Earth's atmosphere. I just don't see it. The technology that was available, I worked on lots of that from that decade, from those times, in the late 50s, early 60s, and 70s. And getting somebody to space, I just don't buy it. And I could really make a great case for it. It would take hours. But so I think that what we've seen is a complete studio fabrication. What may be out there and what may be happening, who knows?
That's all speculation. We don't know exactly what's going on with the real space program.
Right.
The DoD, they have their own space program, and who knows what they're doing with that. I think they probably are doing a lot of things that are more advanced than we know of. But, clearly the stuff that they're showing us, it's just complete and utter bullshit. Everything just looks faked. It doesn't look real. And this stuff with the Chinese moon landing, I think, takes the cake. This is one of the worst fabrications that I've seen in a while.
And why it's so offensive and why it's so dangerous to dare question the validity of it, and why it's almost sacrosanct. You can be the judge to that out there. Yeah. Why is this the biggest thing to never talk about, and that you immediately 9/11 being an inside job? You can believe that, and people won't necessarily call you a kook. If you think that the space landing was faked or the moon landings, man, you were in a whole nother level of conspiracy theorist. You were out there.
Yeah. Well, John McCain that likes to use, the same people who believe this are the same people who believe that NASA faked the Apollo moon landings. He makes a big joke out of it. But, when you look at the facts.
I do.
Yeah, when you look at the facts, here's just some common sense questions, okay? If we really went to the moon back in the late 1960s and early 1970s, why haven't we gone back in 30 plus, 40 plus years if it was so easy back then? You have this complete reversal in technological prowess, if that's the case. Because they're back in the 1970s, people thought that by 2000 we'd have a lunar moon base.
Right.
But there's nothing, at least that we know of. There's nothing. The space program has literally gone backwards since Apollo, if you believe the official narrative of what they're telling us. And that doesn't make any sense, since computing power has gone up dramatically. Technology has increased dramatically. So it doesn't make any sense. It just gives more credence to the fact that this whole thing was just a big ruse.
Oh, yeah, indeed. All right, Lee Rogers, we're out of time, my friend. We've actually gone over a little bit here, and we didn't really get we're gonna have to do another podcast where I can pull you in so that we don't just rail on homosexuality being pushed in the media and other things.
Well,
so
you mentioned Rachel Maddow. You shouldn't have mentioned her. I
Yeah.
can't stand that woman.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I derailed you a little bit there, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
I didn't mean to go off on such a
If you
tirade.
want, some more articulate points from Lee Rogers and his very compelling and great writing, you can find it at blacklistednews.com. Lee, you've got some other things going on. You've got a trance channel that you're building and doing some other sets and things like that. Why don't you tell the people about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm finally getting this together. Initially, I was going to try to start this earlier this year, but my work schedule, they just buried me at work. So it was almost impossible for me to find time to do stuff. But finally, I'm getting to a point where work is kind of lightened up a little bit. I'm not running around like a crazy person. So, I'm looking to set up my YouTube channel, in which I'm going to put out these 2-hour trance music sets every week, hopefully. And I just finished the first one. I'm probably going to release it. I don't know if it's going to be this Sunday or the following Sunday, but that's at least my plan. And then I'm hoping to get back into trying to actually produce some of my own original tracks. So hopefully in the next few months I'll get some time to do that. And meanwhile, I'll still be writing stuff on Blacklisted News as I have time to do so, because there's just no shortage of weird stuff that's happening, like the NSA ruling that came out, the Sandy Hook stuff, and I'll be posting a few articles in the next few days and weeks. So look out for that.
Yeah, you can find Lee's choice picks at blacklistednews.com as well. He is one of our associate editors and puts up a lot of news on a daily basis. So always provocative, always fun, and it gets people talking. So some of the highly commented and interactive stories of 2013 were, of course, written by Lee Rogers. You can get all of his news via the Twitter feed at Blacklisted News, and, of course, follow the show at BLN Radio on Twitter. In the meantime, online at blacklistedradio.com. Quick programming note, myself and Charlie McGrath will be doing Doomcast number 22, I think, this afternoon live on the Spreaker channel as well. So follow us there. Blacklistedradio.com and blacklistednews.com are the websites for everything that you need to be part of the Blacklisted Nation. Until next time, take care.